can take the roll call. Tumangan. The first item can take the roll call.
Meron na dyan. May output na dyan. Ito pare. Ito. Ito pare. Ito pare. Pare na meron na dyan. Ito pare. Yung mga antang sa input. Ay, so pare. Sino ba siya? Bisa mo dyan. Check it out.
Pinaksa ko kasi
operation pursuant to House Resolution number 1505, introduced by Representative Rosana Vergara, Representative Micaela Biolago, Representative Magnolia Antonino, and Representative Arnolfo Teves Jr. The resolution called for an inquiry in aid of legislation on the alleged corruption and irregularities in the imposition, collection, and distribution of taxes and fees on the quarrying operations in the province of Nueva Ecija and other provinces in the Philippines. The basic issue presented to the committee pertains to the authority and irregularities in the imposition, taxes and collection, and distribution of taxes and fees on the quarrying operations in the province of Nueva Ecija and other provinces in the Philippines. The basic issue presented to the committee pertains to the authorization and taxes and imposition, collection, and distribution of taxes and fees on the quarrying operations in the province of Nueva Ecija and other provinces in the Philippines. The basic issue presented to the committee pertains to the authorization and taxes and imposition, collection, and distribution of taxes and fees on the quarrying operations in the province of Nueva Ecija. The basic government that the authority to issue the qualification of commercial sanitary president under the Public Act number declaration of the president of the agency has rather the exclusive authority to issue an environmental compliance certificate required for the issuance of any quarry permit. Another contentious issue is the proper and timely distribution of the shares of the local government units of the collected taxes from the quarry operations. Primordial concern of the committee is the analysis. The committee will determine whether remedial legislation will be necessary to address the jurisdiction of this committee. Before we proceed with the deliberation of House Resolution 150, remedial legislation will be necessary to address the jurisdiction of this committee. Before we proceed with the deliberation of House Resolution 150, remedial legislation will be necessary. Ali of the province of Nueva Ecija, Attorney Aurelio Umali, the former governor of Nueva Ecija, Chairman Michael Aguinaldo, COA. Do you have any representative from COA? Can you identify yourself, please?
May naman. Ayan.
Are you connected?
From Nueva Ecija.
COA of Nueva Ecija.
Yes, sir.
Kayo pong resident auditor.
I'm the supervising auditor of Nueva Ecija.
Okay, thank you. Secretary Roy Simato of DNR. I believe we have several officials from DNR. Governor Ruel Digamo. Governor, thank you for coming. Engineer Metodio Tortilla. Mr. Francisco Milla, Mr. Alilo Insomo, Ms. Lumilin Claudio, Ms. Loreto Arturo, Engineer Lope Carino, Engineer William Conado, Mr. Gilbert Gonzalez, Engineer Ricardo Puno, Maria Cristina Rojas, Ms. Rosana Rivera, Engineer Dennis Antay, Engineer George Santos, Mr. Florante Fajardo, Engineer Wilfredo Pangilinan, Ms. Marian Regalado, Ms. Florena Acoca, Engineer Moreno Navarro, Engineer Lauro Pangilinan, Mr. Efren Romano, Mr. Berno Grifalde, Engineer Danilo Mendoza, Attorney Edwin Vergara, Mr. Anicito Aquino, I believe the following list are the operators. of Nueva Ecija. So may we know if they are present, Mr. Apollo Manuel,
Wala.
Ms. Juana Bacani,
Pero may audio kayo dyan.
Ms. Mary Iris Ortiz,
Ayan.
Mr. Mario Manliklik, Mr. Michael Pesa, Mr. Marlon Mamoya, Mr. Romero Santos, Mr. Ferdinand Vero, Ms. Luz Rigat,
Oo nga eh.
Ms. Iris Salvador, Ms. Isidro Pariliega,
Mike to na, no? Okay. Yun isa isang nga.
Mr. Reynaldo Benuya, Mr. Oliver Garcia, Ms. Para Dina Disico, Mr. Joey Sarangaya, Mr. Dayan Sembrano, Mr. Dodi Disico,
Kaya,
Ms. Prima
ito na lang yan.
Mr. Henry Islaya. So, may present po ba dun sa aquarium
Kaya, tira
operations?
mo.
Wala. So, please take note, the Secretary, that
Meron pa rin.
none of the invited senators is present. So, the Chair will now recognize
Ate pa, ayusin ka.
Representative Arnold Teves Jr.
HTML ako eh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
In-house. The
Good
in-house.
morning, everybody. First of all, Mr. Chairman, I think all resource persons should take their oath.
Hindi camera. Oo.
Before we proceed, may we request the resource persons of the taking their oath, please rise.
May na ako.
I think Governor Ricamo. And then yung iba po, na hindi, for those that have already taken their oath, did not take their oath. Check.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, before this congressional equity, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Representative Junior is recognized.
Mahina na dun eh.
Mr. Chairman, I heard earlier
Yan, tira mo.
that it is the responsibility of the provincial government to collect taxes and
Okay na?
oversee quarry operations, Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask any of the resource persons who is responsible for the upkeep of the environment. What I'm trying to drive at, if there are violations
Mababa na kayo kanina.
of environmental concerns, who should be answerable? May I ask the DENR?
Sige na rin. Yan.
From what I gather, under the local government code,
Kasi
the
para may delay yan eh.
provincial government has the authority to impose quarry fees. However, the environmental compliance certificate, which is a requirement for one of the documents needed for the approval of the sand and gravel permit, will be approved by the DNR. I hope I'm correct, pero from what I understand, that is the procedure. So while the provincial government has the authority to impose fees, but the ECC, which is a vital part, what is a vital document in the approval of the sand and gravel permit, is approved by the DNR. Any person who can answer from the DNR, please. Andi po dito pa ba si Asset? Yes, I think you're the highest official, so maybe you're in a position to answer the question.
Good morning, Honorable Chairman, and to all of us here this morning. For the environmental compliance certificate, though the issuance of the permit is vested with the provincial governor, the environmental compliance certificate is being issued by the Environmental Management Bureau of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources.
Yun nga pala
Yun
yun.
nga, I was right.
HCM, yun na pa. Kaya nagkataka
No,
nga.
the question is, so it has been established already
HCM, yun na sa paano kaya
it
puputi.
is within
Nagugutin ako nga eh.
environmental compliance.
HCM, yun na tayo pare.
Now the question now is with regard to the legality of the issuance of
Yan
the
nagkataka nga
quarry permit.
eh. Inaako na ko.
Whether the provincial government can issue a quarry permit without the environmental compliance certificate. That is now the question I think that should be answered.
Puputo pa na.
Because we have already established na yun na nga, ang ECC
Kaya nga, hanap tayo naman.
Ang tanong ngayon, the government ng sand and gravel permit kung wala ECC.
Yan, wala pa rin. Tira mo.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, my question is, who will police the operations? Ibig ko sabihin, yeah, who will monitor? And over and above the monitoring, if there are violations,
Okay na.
who will file cases? Who will stop the operation? Because in our province, Mr. Chairman, which I will show later, there is very rampant environmental destruction and it's not being stopped. And I heard that the DANR has issued CDOs, which I think they can admit later, and still operations continue up to this day, Mr. Chairman. Or at least up to about last week when I flew over the area.
Ganun din, ano?
Do we have the regional director of DNR? The chair. But first, before you answer that question, may we get an opinion from the ASEC?
Tama rin.
So kung pinakamataas na official dito, who is tasked to supervise, monitor,
Yan.
or
Yan ito.
issue penalties with regards to the violations of the quarry operations?
For the monitoring of quarry operations issued by the local government, the monitoring is by and between the local government, the MCB, and the Environmental Management Bureau. So it's a multi-party team that will conduct the monitoring.
So kung may violation po,
Ayan,
sino po
bye-bye.
mag-issue ng cease and
Meron na?
desist order or whatever regulatory document that must be issued? Ano ba ang, sino bang, let's say if there is a
Okay, sige.
violation in the illegal quarry operations, who issues the cease and desist order? Is it the DNR or the MNB?
Okay na, pare.
For the violations, it depends upon
Okay, sige.
what
Pare. Stand by na
regulatory
lang.
body or the pertinent laws that is being violated.
Pare.
For
Ay.
environmental protection, it should be the Environmental Management Bureau, and for the mining operations, it's
Sige, sige,
the
pare. Sige, pare.
Mines and Geosciences Bureau.
Okay.
But since it is a devolved
Okay,
function,
pare. Sige.
it's
Thank you.
the DENR is only a recommendatory body to the issuing authority for the suspension. But we are talking here of the CDO. The DENR can issue to the violations for the cease and desist orders.
Okay, Representative Teves is
On that note, in short, if there are violations which are very blatant and they continue, who should file cases and where should who should the cases be filed against? Meaning, where does the buck stand? If there are environmental violations in one province, and there is a CDO and operations continue, who is responsible now?
Mr. Chair, may I ask a clarificatory question related to Congressman Teves? In our province, we discovered during this congressional inquiry that all the quarry operators in Nueva Ecija do not have ECCs. That was established in the March 13 hearing. And I guess my question is, because my husband, Mayor J, received a letter penalizing him for securing a gratuitous permit without an ECC. Now, my question is, and it's related to Congressman Teves, are the quarry operators liable, or is this the fault of the provincial government who issued the gratuitous permit, who issues commercial sand and gravel permits without an ECC, because it is their opinion that you do not need an ECC if it's a commercial sand and gravel permit. We do not issue quarry permits. That is the statement of the governor of Nueva Ecija. So now there are by the Director Claudio of EMB, and they're being sent to, I believe, quarry operators, when in our province, the biggest violator is the governor for having issued permits to begin with. I would like to hear from
to give a background, our law that regulates on the mining and quarry, with respect to the effect on the environment. Actually, it's embodied under PD 1586. Mining and quarry projects are considered critical projects. So it varies on the scale of the project, whether it's under the authority of the DNR or the local government who should grant the permit. So if it's a major mining project or quarry project, it's the DNR to the MGB who issues the permit. But for commercial sand and gravel permits, it's the provincial government who is authorized to issue the quarry permit.
No, so does it need ECC?
So, but prior to the granting of the permit, based on the law under PD 1586, an environmental compliance certificate must be secured prior to any permit issuance. So that's the prerequisite. Because ECC is a planning requirement, and it's important to verify the impacts of the project, like a quarry project, on the environment if a permit is granted. So basically, the ECC is required prior to the granting of any permit. Not only for quarry projects, but all projects that are listed as under the purview of PD 1586 should secure an ECC before they are granted permits. So just to clarify, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for the clarification. Representative Teves.
Yeah, going back to my question, who is responsible now? Again, there are violations. Then, DENR issues a cease and desist order. Now, operations continue. Who is responsible now? I mean, responsible for stopping, and who should be sued?
If the basis for the issuance of the cease and desist orders is the violation of the ECC, then the Environmental Management Bureau will be responsible to pursue the case against the violator.
In particular, did you issue CDO for Lo Oxibulan?
Per our record, Mr. Chair, the cease and desist orders were issued by the previous DNR Negros Island region for a number of quarry operators on the basis of non-compliance to the conditionalities of the ACC.
Yeah, non-compliance to the conditions of the ACC, particularly benching. Am I right?
I think that's one of the bases.
Yeah, one.
Issue.
Am I right? Now, do you admit to this committee that the DENR has written or talked verbally to the governor or his representative regarding the cease and desist order, and also admit until today that operations still continue in spite of the cease and desist order? And please remember, you are under oath.
I believe, because I was not the regional director, because the Negros Island region was that, actually Negros Oriental was just reverted back to the DNR Region 7 after it was abolished. So before it's the DNR NIR was covering there. So I'm not aware actually of whether there was a discussion on this with the provincial governor. But there is a venue for DNR to present certain issues with the provincial government. That's the Provincial Mining Regulatory Board. And we made, based on the records, there were representations already made to present all the concerns of the department relative to the quarry operations in Negros as to the coverage of the provincial government relative to the operations.
Okay, if you are not sure because you were not the regional director then, I am sure your counterparts in the province have been there ever since.
I think we can...
yeah, that's right. Because I'd like to address this question to the representative of the province. Was there CDO issued by the DENR in the past months in Look, Sibulan? Who is the highest
Good morning.
DNR official of the province?
He's not around, sir. He's
No, I'm not the one present here.
the Senro or me, because we are...
Yeah, any of you.
So,
Are you aware of the CDO issued in the previous
yes,
months?
Actually, yes, Your Honor. We have conducted the monitoring and...
No, just answer my question. Are you aware
Yes,
of the
Your
CDO
Honor.
issued?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has the CDO been implemented? Please remember, you are under oath.
The EMB issued the CDO.
No, my question was, has it been implemented?
I would like to ask the question to the EMB director, Your Honor, because we just recommend for the issuance of the CDO, and they will.
I thought you are monitoring. If you are monitoring, you will know if the CDO has been implemented or not. It's very simple. If there is a CDO...
It was not implemented because it is still operating.
Again, for the record, was it implemented or not?
Not implemented.
No, it was not implemented.
Still operating.
I'd like to put that on record, Mr. Chairman, that it was not implemented. Next question. Why was it not implemented?
That I don't know.
No, and you should know. You cannot say you do not know.
The EMB director already issued notices, Your Honor, relative to the violation. In fact, we have here copies of the recent issuances, notice of violation, and cease and desist order.
No, let us not deviate from the question. The question now is, why was it not implemented?
Because the quarry operation is under the permit of the issuance permit of the LGU.
Yeah, that was my earlier question. Because if it is under the LGU, now, who should stop the operation? Because there is already a CDO issued. Now, if operations continue, that was my earlier question, who is now responsible for physically stopping the operation or in short, policing the operations?
It could be the local government units.
So you're telling me now that it is the provincial government who should stop the operation?
Yes, because they have written, the EMB copy furnished the provincial government for the suspension of issuance of delivery receipts and OTP relative to the violations, the CDOs.
Next question. Now, if the provincial government or the LGU fails to stop the operation even with the CDO, it was mentioned here in the previous hearings that the ASEC Cagoya will file cases against the governor. ASEC, you mentioned in the previous hearing that you will file a case against the governor before the end of May. Do you admit that you said to this committee? Because if not, I will have it struck out, or extracted from the records. Just answer my question. Do you admit that you said that you will file cases before the end of May?
We will file cases, but not with the governor. It's against the violators.
Against us. Then against the violators, if that's what you said. Have you filed the cases against the violators? Just answer my question, yes or no. Have you filed cases against the violators?
We have some already cases in the court, and there is the others. We will be having the finalization of the report for the corresponding cases to be filed upon the finalization.
Now, which is which now? Because the provincial DENR is saying that it is the responsibility of the LGU to police the operations. The CDO comes from the DENR. I think it's the responsibility of the DENR to file cases against those who are responsible. Who is responsible now? The operator or the LGU? Just answer my question. Huwag na tayo paikot-ikot dito. Who is responsible now? The operator or the LGU?
Well, actually, there are two angles we have to look into, sir, because there are two particular laws that applies to quarry operations. If the violation is on the ECC conditionalities, there is no criminal provision in that law that will file a case on a violator. So there is only administrative penalties that are imposed, or we can suspend or cancel the ECC. And subsequent to that, if the project is not covered by an ECC, then therefore there should be no permits granted to that quarry operation. So if there is a quarry operation granted to, or quarry permit granted to an operator that is not covered by an EC, that should be considered as an illegal issuance.
Now, you don't get my question. My question is this. You already had a CDO. The CDO was already issued.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, the operations continue. Sino ang dapat hulihin at sino ang dapat manghuli? Ganun lang kasimple. Tinatagalog ko na.
Okay. Actually, Your Honor, the responsibility to regulate this is not only embodied with the DNR. The entity who grants the permit should be co-responsible for the
Exactly.
operation. So considering that the ECC is only a prerequisite to the issuance of the permit, that should be fully observed as the ECC is what is the basis for considering environment, and it's one of the requirement for an operator to pursue his quarry operations.
Hindi tayo nagkakaintindihan. Who is the highest ranking official of the DENR here? ASEC? ASEC ganito. Merong inisyong CDO, no? Because overall, it's the DENR in charge of the environment. You know, we are here in aid of legislation. Because if there is no teeth in that legislation, we will put teeth. Ang ibig ko lang sabihin, ganito. Nag-issue kayo ng CDO. But still, hindi pinakinggan yung CDO nyo. It continues. May kumikita pa rin doon. May kumukutong pa rin. Nag-ooperate pa rin. Sino ang responsable? Sino ang dapat kasuhan? Yung nag-ooperate or yung hindi nang huli ng illegal operation? Grabe naman, simple-simpleng tanong.
Congressman Teves, hindi ba dapat yung
Petro is still under the umbrella of the DENR. That's why I'm asking now the national DENR, sino ba yung dapat nilang kasuhan? Yung nag-ooperate in spite of the CDO, or the one who should have implemented the CDO and the CDO has not been implemented? And before you answer that question, may I ask the COMSEC to play the pictures to show the public what I'm talking about? Because if the public says this is not a violation of the environment, hindi na ako magtatanong. Pero kung tingin nyo this is environmental destruction, then we should act on it.
Secretariat, please proceed with the presentation.
There. I took those pictures, I think May 17, just this month. And I took another picture just recently. I took them myself. Now, can you focus on the picture before that? Yung isa. Can you look at the left side portion? Yan. Enough. No, again, put it further back and show the wall. The wall. There, enough. Yan. May I ask the DENR ASEC, tama pa ba yan? O kahit sino dito? Kung may magsabi tama yan, hindi na ako magtatanong, tigilin na natin itong investigasyon ito. Tama pa ba yan? Asay Kagoya or Kagiwa, whatever. Is that correct? Is that proper protocol? Ma'am, can I have an answer?
The one on the left.
Congressman Teves, what area is this?
Looc, Sibulan, in my province.
Okay. Who is the regional director of DENR? Aware po ba kayo to na picture na to? So you are aware of this. So ibig sabihin, do you agree with the picture? So sagutin niyo po yung sa tanong ni Congressman Teves.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, these are quarry areas, and these operations in that area were granted quarry permits. So that's why there is quarry operations ongoing in those areas.
My question was, tama ba ito? How it's being operated, is it correct?
Well, actually,
No benching, just a wall, even a cave?
actually there are standards in terms of quarry or mining operations, and there is already on record that the MGB has conducted.
No, just let's talk about this picture. Is that correct?
Yes,
the
sir.
one on the-
I'm just giving.
No need to explain, boss. We all know that.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? Yes or no lang?
Not correct, sir.
Not correct.
Yes.
How come it continues today? Answer my question. How come it continues today? Yun lang ibig ko sabihin eh. Isang taon ko nang tinatanong yan dito, ang dami pa rin kumikita ng pera doon. Bakit? Why is it operating? Why? Because if the DANR cannot stop it, then tanggalin na natin yung budget ng DANR sa budget hearing, di ba? Useless na yung DANR.
Sir, I will let the Regional Director of the Mines and Geoscience Bureau respond.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Your Honors. Actually, in one of our PMRB meetings, we have agreed, the members of the board, PMRB, agreed to suspend the operations in Looc, Cebulan, on the grounds of the one cited by Honorable Teves, until such time that appropriate measures shall have been introduced that will include the proper benching and also the juridic needs the identification of specific boundaries of the various operators in the area.
You agreed. Again, you did not answer my question. Why is it still operational today? Who is responsible for its continued operation? Yun na lang. Ba't parang ayaw niyo magturo?
Your Honor, the quarry permits and commercial permits were issued by the Honorable Governor, and therefore it's the LGU, the issuing authority, is responsible.
Okay, I will ask the governor now. Is it true that you issued permits on these areas?
Your Honors, before I answer that question, let me inform each and everyone, especially the members of this august body, that the one referring to by Congressman Teves is a lot owned by Congressman Minyong Teves.
Whoever
and
it
then,
is.
And then the good Congressman Minyong Teves granted a special power of attorney to Mr. Sean Gaston, who happens to be a first cousin of Congressman Teves. And then, in fairness to the DNR, Mr. Chair, the cease and desist order was implemented. The operations was stopped. And the cease and desist order of the DNR refers only to the operation, not the ECC. Then until such time that the CDU, after inspection by EMB, that there were already, the quarry operators met already the requirements for such an ECC. So they lifted the CDO. So again, when the DNR lifted the CDO, Mr. Sean Gaston went to my office and again asked for a permit. Since the CDO were already lifted and Mr. Sean Gaston presented to me the necessary ECC granted by the DNR, then my office, you know, Mr. Chair, before I will give permit, I am very strict to this. Before I will give permit, I must see to it that everything is in order. I did not give permit that has lacking the ECC, the other necessary documents. I will not give permit. There are two kinds of violators insofar as the province of Negros Oriental is concerned, as in fairness to the DNR.
Mr. Chairman, may I continue?
Uh,
Because he's out of the question.
Can I continue?
Let us finish so that we could also hear the governor.
Yes, because
Since
this is...
he came all the way from Dumaguete to attend, so we would like to hear his side.
And we are here because we are invited as resource person. Hindi dapat pagalitan.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Wala namang
Yes, sorry,
nagagalit sa'yo.
Mr. Chair.
So you can proceed. That's
Yeah.
why I'm giving you the time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, nag-grant ako ng permit because everything is in order. That picture scene, pag makita natin yan, may nag-violate, talagang nag-create ako ng task force, balas o bato, for Visayan term. Meaning, task force, balas o bato, to apprehend those violators in my province. According to the ordinance of Negros Oriental, mining ordinance, the local, the barangay captains were empowered to apprehend. But as we noticed, the barangay captains did not. Some barangay captains did not do their job. So it was the province that created already the task force in order that we can apprehend those violators. As I said, Mr. Chair, there are two kinds of violators in my province. Number one, with permit, violators with permit, and they did not follow what is embodied in the ECC and the permit issued by the province. That's one violator. Number two, those who have no permit at all. So the task force, as per record, we have many apprehensions made. In fact, there are some mayors were already apprehended in my province. That is on record. We have this on record, and I have submitted that already to your office, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I continue?
May we know from the Secretariat if paki-submit na lang po, Governor, may tao naman kayo doon, turing kunin mo doon yung ano, para we will have a record. Representative Teves.
Yeah. I am very thankful that it has been pointed out that this property being quarried is owned by my relatives. So dun nyo makikita na wala akong kinakampihan. Kahit sa kamag-anak ko, kung may kamalian, mali. Again, may nakita akong pagsisinungaling. Sabi kasi, lifted na. Ngayon, sabi naka-CDO. Sinong nagsasabi sa inyo ng katotohanan? May I ask the DENR?
Chair, please.
DENR.
When I talk my oath, I already told you that I will tell the truth, and nothing but the truth. The CDO already lifted. This, as per record. And fairness to them, they do not know because this is coming from the NIR which has been dissolved.
Mr. Chairman, I repeat my question.
I will submit this record to
can
your
you respect this body? Huwag kang bastos dito.
Yes, can we have a copy?
Can the DENR confirm if the CDO has been lifted? At huwag kayong magbabastos dito sa body na ito.
Mr. Chair, good morning. Regarding the lifting of the order, there are some quarry operator, the CDO has been lifted. For the purpose, Mr. Chair, because we found out that there are a need to have a proper benching, especially this Shane Gaston.
Just answer my question. Has the CDO been lifted?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
The one on the left? The CDO has been lifted? Not on the right. I was talking to the one on the left. Has it been lifted? Because if the CDO has been lifted, then DENR is responsible. Why? How can you lift a CDO on a quarry which is not properly done? Answer my question. Has the CDO been lifted?
I will answer that question. I have here a copy of an order from Engineer William Conyado, the Regional Director. The cease and desist order dated August 28, 2016, issued against the sand and gravel permit of Mr. Sean Gaston is hereby lifted, dated March 2, 2018.
Mr. Chairman, I think the one on the left is not owned by Mr. Sean Gaston. The one on the right is, and I was just glad that it has been mentioned. And even then, the one of Sean Gaston, if it is bench, it is not to specification. I am very sure of that. I was referring to the quarry on the left, and I would like to ask the DENR, has the CDO been lifted? Because according to Secretary Simatu, the last time we were together, the CDO stands. DENR?
DENR, can you please answer? Sino ba sa DENR ang sasagot? Si Gonzales or...
The one on the left, not the one on the right.
Kanino ba yung talaga inquiry na yun? Because accordingly, yung right, yung kay Sean Gaston.
I presume. I'm not 100% sure, but I presume. The one on the left, I think, is owned by Bangkay rin.
Then we must verify first how many quarry permittees are operating in that area. Kasi itong lift order is...
It's only for Sean Gaston.
addressed to
That's why I
Sean
did not
Gaston.
ask. That guy is my cousin, but I'm talking of the quarry on the left of the picture. I think the DENR should be able to answer on whose quarry that is, because alam nila yon, nagmo-monitor kayo, hindi nyo alam kaninong quarry yan. DENR, can you please answer the question?
Maybe Governor Digamo knows. Before we proceed, we acknowledge the presence of Representative Gabriel Bordado, our Vice Chairman, Representative Robert Ace Barbers, the Chairman of the Committee on Dangerous Drugs, and Representative Joseph Paduano. So, bigyan muna natin. Baka may record si Governor Digamo nung sinasabi niyong permit.
The one on the left, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. The one in the left is operated by a certain Negros Sand and Gravel Incorporated, or Nisagi. And true that there was a CDO issued, but per record, Mr. Chair, sir, per record, there was already a record that the one from the left was already lifted. I will show to you this record.
Turing, Secretariat, para may record tayo, so sandali. Para for point of clarification, I stand corrected and I apologize. It's Representative Joseph Tejada. Magkamukha po kasi sila kaya hindi natin maano Yung isa. Nasaan yung isa? Yung isang lift order. So that we will be clarified. Okay, one lift order is given to or issued to Mr. Sean Gascon, dated March 2, 2018. And the other one is Nisagi. Sino ba itong sinisagi?
Was it lifted?
Oh, so it's a corporation against Negros Sand and Gravel Incorporated. So it's Nisagi. It does not state here who are the owners, but it is a corporation. So the one on the left is being operated by Nisagi, and again, the cease and desist order has also been lifted.
May I continue, Mr. Chairman? May I know who issued the lift order? Cuñado.
It's Regional Director Cuñado on both orders.
Is Cuñado here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Who is Cuñado?
I'm the one.
How come you issued a lift order on that on that condition?
Mr. Chairman, we leave the CDO in the premise that we have to conduct rehabilitation activities. So we give them a 6 months period to make a rehabilitation to have a proper benching. So that's the purpose that they have already, the province issue a permit for the removal of the materials after the benching. So we are now starting, still monitoring for the compliance of the benching activities, which we intend to make that area a very good.
You issued the lift order March 16. I fly over that area almost every week. Now, that picture I think I took May 17, which is about 2 months from the lift order. May benching ba? Pakitingnan naman. May benching ba? Boss, pakitingnan nyo sa kaliwa. May benching? Is that what you call benching?
Actually, Mr. Chair, I leave that monitoring to my focal persons in...
No, answer my question. Is there benching in that picture? Or there is stockpiling?
That is, there is still an ongoing activity.
No, just answer my question. Is there benching in that picture? Alam ko may ongoing operation. They are stockpiling, not benching.
Mr. Chair, that's what we are looking forward in monitoring, because still the benching could not be immediately took effect when it is not yet finished. So that's why we give them a period of 6 months for the benching activities. So we just only have to monitor that what they have given us for the benching activities, because we want that area to have a proper mining activity. So that's why we give them that permit is good only for rehabilitation, not for the quarry purposes, Mr. Chair.
I disagree, Mr. Chairman, because it is blatant. I mean, it is very clear in the picture that what is being done is stockpiling, and not even a single bench has been made in the past 2 months. Wala kasing kita sa benching. Sa stockpiling at sa barging may kita. Kung titingnan nyo yung picture, again, Mr. Chairman, I think this guy should be cited for perjury because wala naman talagang benching operations. How come there is a lift order, and how often is your monitoring? Every 6 months lang?
Actually, Mr. Chair, we have a weekly monitoring and we have a field...
Weekly. Can you submit to this committee weekly report on what has happened with the rehab operations of this area?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Let me ask you this question. Granting wala talagang nangyaring benching in the past 2 months, which is clearly shown in the picture, are you willing to resign and forgo of all your benefits? You know, believe me, budget hearing comes, your budget will be questioned because, again, I don't think you're doing proper monitoring, and I think you're even doing something tantamount to corruption because you are allowing continued operation of this quarry in spite of the violations which is clearly seen in the picture.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we relied mostly on our field engineers in monitoring.
See, so that's what I'm saying.
That's why we are... we have a regular monitoring. So whatever the submitted report of our field engineers in terms of the compliance of the commitments of the rehabilitation. So if our field engineers will say that these are the activities conducted in compliance of the benching activities for rehabilitation, then we will have to stand for that reports of that field engineer. In fact, Mr. Chair, we have here our field engineers, Loreto Ribac, who will also could give an testimony for that activities.
Okay. Where is your field? Before that, kanina sinabi ng gobernador that the CDO was implemented. Sinabi nyo, hindi na-implement. Sino ngayon ang nagsisinungaling sa inyo? Again.
Mr. Chair,
No, kanina, di ba? The DENR side said the CDO was not implemented. I think Virnov said that it was not implemented. And it was on record. Can I ask Virnov again? Was it implemented or was it not?
Your Honor, the engineers we're talking about are actually Mr. Ryan Lester Villarhermosa and John Paulo Patajo, and of course Forester Lorito Ribac, who submitted even to us the weekly monitoring report.
No, answer my question. Was the CDO implemented or was it not? Because earlier you said it was not.
As mentioned, Your Honor, no.
It was not. Then how come the governor is saying it was implemented? Sino sa inyong dalawa nagsisinungaling ngayon?
I cannot answer for the governor.
No, that's why. Sabi niya na implement. Sabi mo hindi. Which is which now? Who do we listen to? How do we resolve that issue? How do we resolve that issue now?
So make it stop.
If you ask me, I believe you more.
Make it stop, Your Honor.
Make it stop?
Yes. Right now, we have to agree that we rehabilitate that within 6 months, or we stop it now in that condition.
Because that's not being, there is no rehabilitation there.
Yes, Your Honor, because
on the other side, I see benching. Can you move the picture to the right side? Can you focus on the right picture? There's a little bit of semblance of benching.
That's the property of Sean Gaston.
Yeah, but that's not even proper benching.
Yes, Your Honor.
It is a semblance of benching, but not. Do you admit that that's not proper benching?
Yes, Your Honor.
See? Again, do you admit to this committee that there are violations?
There is still, because it's still under observation. However, we need to enforce more.
Yeah. Do you admit that there is continued barging of materials out of that area?
There is, Your Honor.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I see a problem here. I think the governor is lying when he said that the CDO has been implemented. And also, Cunyado, I think, is also lying by saying that they are doing it for rehabilitation purposes when clearly in the last 2 months from March 16, there is not even a single bench done on the quarry on the left side. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyway, for point of clarification lang, from what we have gathered during the deliberations, I think the quarry operations were stopped, di po ba? Kasi may cease and desist order. Then, para lang malinawan tayo, then it was lifted by Regional Director Cunyado. Ganun po ba? Ganun ha, pagkakaintindi natin. So, at the moment, these two quarry are operating. Ganun po ba? Sinong sasagot?
May I, Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Yes. I just want to clarify.
Actually, Mr. Chair, that's really what happened. But the purpose for lifting, as I say, the purpose of lifting is we don't want to remain the environments look not good. That's why they are asking that we have to issue a lifting order for the purpose of rehabilitation, not for the quarry purposes, Mr. Chair. But however, if those activities given for the rehabilitation is not complied by the project proponent, maybe we can finalize the project proponent making a commitment to rehab but not fail to comply that conditions.
Okay, so nilift ninyong order dahil for rehabilitation purposes. Now, kung hindi nag-rehabilitate yung quarry operator, what is the next step?
Then we will have to file a case against the violators, Mr. Chair, because this time they failed to comply their commitment to rehabilitate the area, and then at the same time, there's still damages of the environment. So we will have to file a case for that, for non-compliance. But Mr. Chair,
ganito,
we are given a 6 months period for rehabilitation. So probably, Mr. Chair, if within 2 months period, I don't know, it's premature to make a decision, but it depends on how we look at this time. We should give in a 6 month period, but since if you have to look at is there's no compliance in the preliminary period, then we will have to stop. We will not give the state extension up to 6 months, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Representative Teves.
Ganito ha, let us be clear. Because the chairman thought that there was a stoppage. No, there was a stoppage on paper, but there was no physical stoppage. Am I right, Verno? The stoppage was only on paper, but it was never implemented physically, di ba?
I could not relate on the paper, Your Honor.
No, no, I mean stoppage, there's a CDO.
Actual field condition, there is operation.
Yeah, kaya nga, ibig ko sabihin, Mr. Chairman, there was a CDO, and later it was lifted. But even when there was a CDO, they continued operation. Now, about the rehabilitation, let me explain, Mr. Chairman. The quarry on the left, Mr. Chairman, I will explain to this committee why it's impossible to do rehab. Yung lupa sa baba, hindi sa amin yan. Yung lupa sa taas, lupa ng pamilya namin yan. Ibig ko sabihin, if the quarry operator below does benching, he will already go past the property line of my relative's property. Can I request for a whiteboard so I can explain with a drawing? Ibig ko sabihin, this wall, kaya nga dapat benching, because kung mag-bench ka dito, matatanggal na yung mga kahoy niyan. Kami pa nagtanim niyan before. I used to live in that land, Mr. Chairman, for 3 years. Again, do you admit that that's already the property line of the next property where the trees stand? Can I have an answer from the DENR? Do you admit?
As far as the San Gaston...
No, this side, the left.
I could not determine that
yeah,
was property.
the Bangkairen side is below our property.
Then it is...
Sa taas niyan, property line na. Do you think it's possible to do benching without encroaching to the next property?
It would encroach.
It would encroach. So now, how can Cunyado talk about rehab? How can you possibly rehab when you will encroach on the next property? When the quarry you are going to rehab is owned by another person. Can I have an answer from Cunyado?
Mr. Chair, the rehabilitation that we have granted to him is based on the submitted plans of that proponent. So that's why we, after that approval of the rehabilitation plan, that's why we have a monitoring activities, Mr. Chair, to verify if there is already in compliance of the submitted rehabilitation plan.
Ngayon lang, tinan mo yung picture nga. From the picture, that's already the next property. Is it possible to do benching from the ground level and do benching without encroaching on the next property? Is it possible? From that picture now. Because you lifted the order for rehabilitation.
Actually,
no, answer my question. Is it possible?
Definitely, Mr. Chair, it will not be possible.
See?
Because
that's what I'm saying.
What rehabilitation that we are intended is for the area that is specifically granted to that project proponent. So if you have to cross across of the area, that is already, it's also in violations of the project proponent in that aspect.
So on record, you admit that it is not possible to rehabilitate the quarry on the left without encroaching on the next property?
If you have, yes, Your Honor, but as I said, it will be based on...
no, then actual lang. Actual ngayon ba? Ngayon, that picture, will it be possible to rehab or bench without encroaching on the next property?
Definitely, Your Honors, you cannot go there beyond their applied area because that is not...
yes or no? Is it possible to rehabilitate that quarry on the left without encroaching to the next property?
No, Your Honor.
See? Then why did you issue a permit for rehabilitation when you know it is impossible? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Your Honor, please.
Let us... do you still have any comment, Director Conyado? May sasagot po po kayo? Wala na.
Your Honor, in terms of the rehabilitation, as I said, it is based on the submitted rehabilitation plan of the project proponent. If the project proponent, Mr. Chair, failed to comply what is indicated in the rehabilitation plan, that is answerable by the project proponent.
Okay, so
Mr. Chair.
pakicheck nyo. It's very clear naman pala na i-monitor ninyo kung if you think or if your investigation results that they have not complied with the provisions of your lift order, then you file a case. Governor Digamo.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. In fairness again to the DENR, nawa na ko sa mga taong to eh. May I read this suspension order, sir, for the records?
Anong
Because
suspension
again,
order yun?
kanina po nagsabi
No, what is that? Suspension order for what?
on the on the Sagi, the one in the left.
Yung cease and desist order?
Yes, sir.
Yes, okay.
Suspension order dated September 14, 2017. This is to go against the statement of Congressman Teves that I am lying. Negros Sand and Gravel Incorporated or Nisagi, represented by Mr. Leonor Laxena, Barangay Luok, Sibulan, Negros Oriental. In view of the cease and desist order or CDO dated July 31, 2017 against your sand and gravel operation issued by the Environmental Management Bureau or EMB Region 18 and received by this office on August 2, 2017, you are hereby directed to temporarily suspend your sand and gravel operation, extraction and hauling with permit number SP-097-17 located at Barangay Luok, Sibulan, Negros Oriental until such time that you can secure an environmental compliance certificate or ECC from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources or DENR. Attached is a copy of the CDO issued by the EMB Region 18. This suspension order will take effect immediately upon receipt of this letter for strict compliance. Signed, Governor Digamo.
Okay, noted.
Thank you, sir.
Sige po. Now, I'll like to give the floor to Representative Vergara.
Just related, sir, to Governor Digamo. May I address him, Mr. Chair?
Yes, of course.
This issue that Congressman Teves has been talking about since we became congressman, has this been referred to the Provincial Regulatory Mining Board of your province? Are there minutes of that meeting? Does your PMRB even convene? Because in Nueva Ecija, it doesn't. So do you have the same problem with your province, Governor?
My in charge in the ENRD. Attorney Ino, please.
Sino chairman sa PMRB? Si attorney?
Hindi po.
You're the vice chair as governor, aren't you, sir?
It
So
was-
could
it
you
was the
answer? You would be the
Siya na lang.
highest ranking.
He's in a position to answer. Pero, please take your oath first.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this congressional inquiry, so help you God? Thank you.
Yes, please take the microphone. And identify yourself.
Good morning, Your Honors. With regard to I am Attorney Richard Inoho, the Provincial Administrator, at the same time the OIC Provincial Legal Officer of the Province of Negros Oriental. Regarding the Luok problem, that has come to my attention because processing of documents and violations of the mining ordinance in the Province of Negros Oriental passes through my office for legal review. And so when these problems in Luok cropped up, I conducted a lot of meetings with our field monitors, and there was also a meeting last month together with the DNR officials from Negros Oriental. And one of the reasons, one of the matters that came up was the creation of the task force, which up to this time is awaiting for the approval from the Secretary of the DNR. It's true that there were CDOs issued, and these CDOs were actually implemented. In fact, there was an inspection conducted by the DNR that a particular permittee continued to extract sand and gravel despite the effectivity of the CDO, and as a consequence, the EMB imposed a penalty of 30 million pesos against the permittee, and that is Medalla Sia. So for the record, the two CDOs issued were actually implemented. Secondly, the CDOs were lifted. The fact that they were lifted, that means they were implemented. and because they were lifted, and after submission of documents in support of their application for the renewal of their permits, the governor had this application processed, and after determination that they were in fact complete, the governor issued the permit.
Sir,
That's why.
sir, excuse me. So these meetings that you're talking about, that was with the PMRB, or that's a meeting outside of the PMRB?
Attorney, I think the question of Representative Vergara is, do you regularly convene the PMRB? Yun ang tanong po niya.
We have a regular meeting every now and then. I think once a month, people from the DNR Cebu will come to Dumaguete
Yes.
to conduct meetings for the PMRB.
And in the PMRB meetings that you conducted, has this issue of Congressman Teves been taken up? That was the question.
Last month when we had a meeting, that was thoroughly discussed.
Can we have the minutes of that meeting submitted?
Yeah, we
and
will
all
submit-
other meetings?
We will gladly submit the minutes of the meetings last month that I attended.
And all other meetings?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chair, with courtesy to Congressman Teves, could I shift to Nueva Ecija, sir? Thank
Okay.
you.
Mr. Chair, nalilito lang ako dito kasi sinasabi nung attorney, na-implement daw yung CDO. Sabi naman dito ni Conyado, nag-issue siya ng lifting order.
No, it was clarified already earlier. A CDO was issued. And then after it was implemented, after several months, a lift order was again issued. So yun po ang,
Mr. Chair,
ang process.
but Engineer, I cannot, Galeria?
Engineer Conyado.
Lafalde said that it was not implemented. So, ano ba talaga?
Saan ba si Engineer Crifalde? Sabi kasi ni Engineer Conyado na implement. Sabi mo raw, hindi.
But if you read at the report, May 8, weekly yan ang monitoring, May 8. I have your copy. May 8, 2008, site inspection was conducted at the Laksina, Nisagi area. As per observation, a backhoe and bulldozer is seen operating in the area. Kasi ang tanong sa akin is, their operation, meron. Pero na-implement, it was implemented duly by both the EMB and the kasi nag-monitor. So, sabi na naman natin dito kay Loksin. So, they have conducted weekly monitoring one because it was lifted. And it was lifted para ibigay daan yung rehabilitation as what was mentioned a while ago. So, merong active kwan dito na lahat niyan na merong CDO,